Thomson. Welcome to the Boardroom Podcast. Good to see you.
Thanks, Scott. Good to see you, mate. It's been a long time.
Yeah, how long has it been?
Oh, geez, it'd have to be, when was the last Boardroom show?
In the 2019.
2019. So there you go. It's a couple of years.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And I imagine you're just kind of in Australia. I mean, there's no reason or no need it's really too much of a pain in the ass for you to leave.
Yeah, basically, I guess we can't really leave. Or we can't, if you have a business excuse, you can get exemptions to travel. But in a general sense, the Australian government's just banned all ingoing and outgoing flights for everybody unless you have a critical need to fly overseas.
Yeah, and how do you think that's going for you, for Australians in general, the way that your government's reacted?
There's two sides of the story. On one side, it's definitely kept the pandemic to a minimum over here. They've got it well in control. So that's a plus. But on the negative side, now that everything's kind of opening back up and people are traveling again, going on surf trips. I mean, you guys are, at least from what I understand.
Yeah.
We're kind of still stuck in this very overly cautious nanny state in a sense. So,
right.
It's a bit of give and take, but I guess if there's somewhere to be stuck, it's not a bad place to be stuck. It's winter for us now, and there's good waves, and there's worse problems out there. Yeah,
for sure. That's a good way to look at it. So the waves have been fun, huh? I've been scouring your Instagram. It looks like you've been getting some fun surf.
Yeah, it's been I'd say it's early winter. We've had a reasonably good start to the season. We've had a few nice swells, and sandbanks are okay, not as good as last year. Last year was a really kicker winter for us. We had a bunch of great days, a lot of consistent good days. So it'll be a hard act to follow last winter, but anyway, we're doing all right.
So when you say the sandbanks were good last year, obviously that just means some sand moved down the point and was just really good for whatever reason. I mean, do you attribute the reason that the sand was so good to anything?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think that's the biggest factor in a quality year of surf here. We generally in East Coast of Australia got fairly consistent swell coming from the Antarctic or whatever, just south low pressure systems kind of spin up every week or every other week at worst. So we got a pretty consistent swell window in winter. So the quality of surf really comes down to our sandbars and how much sand movement there is, and you can attribute that to a bunch of different reasons, where there's been a lot of rain and the rivers blow out and push a lot of sand around that way, or it's just a natural flow. You can't really predict it so much. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And is Lennox Head sort of your go-to, or do you have some other fun little zones that you surf, or is Lennox kind of the only wave in town?
It's not the only wave in town, that's for sure, but it's the highest quality wave in town. That's our world-class point break. But right around the corner, we've got another beautiful little point break and several kind of waves. So this little area is a very wave-rich little part of the coastline. Like, there's some good beach breaks, odd little reef or two, and like a river mouth setup in Ballina that's very similar to D-Bar, kind of a bigger scale version of that river jetty kind of style setups. And so we've got fairly wave dense area, lots of options depending on conditions. But Lennox Point is always the premier wave around here, especially in winter time. Yeah.
And what's the population? What's Lennox Head like for people that don't know? The town of Lennox, the town of Ballina, what's that area like? Like, how many people live there? Is it similar to, say, the Encinitas area, or I don't know?
It's getting that way. It's a very rural country area in a general sense, but the population and the city is closing in here really quick. It's one of the most populous places in the real estate market in the whole of the country right now. Oh, lots of movie stars are transplanting from Hollywood and over there to here, and And then the developments are just going up left, right, and center. Like you're just watching them go up every year.
Right.
So it's getting far more crowded in the ocean, and in the sense of like traffic and infrastructure, and that's not quite projected to cope as it's growing. But that being said, we're still a pretty rural zone, and it's definitely real beautiful green and a lot of space. You get a sense of space, but things are changing, man.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
You mentioned the crowds, and I know here we've had this sort of COVID crowd phenomenon, and I know they've had it in Hawaii and in probably a lot of places. Is that something that you're experiencing there? A lot of just like like athletic, aspirational newcomers that are just good enough to kind of get in your way because they're so athletic and they're 25 years old, but they just picked up a board for the first time.
There's all of that, man. Like we said, because we can't travel. In Australia, everyone just comes to the wave-rich zones for their holidays now. So we've experienced probably the worst crowds we've ever seen in the last year. So gone are the days where you could kind of get a sneaky little pumping sesh with a couple of locals out. It's kind of, it's 50 guys is a standard crowd on an average day, so we're like, and the other thing is we're only like less than 50 miles from the Gold Coast, so and Byron Bay is a huge tourist town that's only 10 miles down the coast, so everything's real close, and the crowds are definitely they're here, man.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're here.
They're everywhere. That's just the world we live in. Population growth.
It is. What about vaccines? Is Australia vaccinating its population? Do you guys have access to vaccines?
You know what, they do, and they're doing the rollouts and all that kind of stuff. They're definitely pushing that on the news and all that kind of stuff. So I think that stuff is all pretty similar to the US and most countries. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about surfboards a little bit. Here, there's just been an incredible demand for surfboards. Like, guys can't build boards fast enough, and the glass houses are slammed. People are opening up new glass shops to get all the boards done. What's it like there regarding surfboard manufacturing?
It's exactly the same story. Yeah, we've experienced, the highest demand that we've ever seen, and the same story. The glass shops are so slammed that the wait times for boards are. I think the latest from my glass shop was like 17 weeks or something.
Oh my God.
Well, I know. So, but I do wheel and deal to try and stay in business, but it's these very unique new challenges, and for us, it's been wait times has been a problem, and the other tricky thing to deal with is shipping overseas. Because everyone's shipping and everyone's staying at home, and this online business model is growing throughout every industry. The world of shipping is very clustered, and therefore the prices are going up and up. So that's a challenge. So, but as far as global sales and Firewire stuff, everything's going strong there. It's been good.
What about do you just get random emails from guys like me that are like, "Hey, I found your website. I'd like a 510." Like, do you just from like Singapore or from Indo or from here, probably a few from here? Do you get those types of emails, and are you able to make those boards?
Yeah, we absolutely can. Yeah. Like, I got a fairly broad customer base, I guess, just due to the people riding my boards all over the world through discovering them with the Firewires and so forth. So we get a lot of international customers for my customs, but it's the same as most custom businesses. You got to just deal with the challenges of shipping and the costings of that. But you can basically build and ship a board anywhere. It just comes down to price.
Yeah. And you're getting those orders. I mean, I can imagine, because I was just looking at your Instagram. I'm like, shit, I should just have Daniel make me a board. And I was like, oh man, how am I
Yeah.
going to get it? I bet he's super busy and swamped, and it's going to be 4 months or 6 months, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it's just the time. That's the time. It comes down to time, and yeah. So obviously that holds a lot of people back. They're like, oh, I don't want to wait. But it's when they go do the research. I think a lot of people are in similar boat.
Who's the lucky guy that gets, like, I imagine you're a little sprightlier and younger and a much better surfer than I am, but I could imagine I could kind of look at your used bin in your backyard and look at a few boards and be like, oh man, how about this one? Who's the lucky guy that gets some of your used cast-offs?
Well, I got a friend who works with me, Hilton Dorr. He's my customer service manager. He often distributes the used boards, or I got a lot of friends and associates around that are always putting their hand up for some used boards. So then they're never hard to find a home for once I get rid of them.
I bet. How many boards are you currently, you personally, like, what's it look like in your shed? Like, you know me, I've got like 20 boards. I probably only have 8 that I'm going to. What's it like in your surf shed?
I don't keep a lot of just. I keep all the important boards in my design history. So I've got about like 50 boards that have been the keepers and are important in the timeline of my evolution in shaping. So I've got them, and then I've probably got about 20 or 30 that are in a kind of like a surf rotation of sorts, So
Yeah.
some of them are really old, some of them are new, some have complete prototypes, some are prototypes I've ridden once, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like that one. And so I've got about 20 or 30 boards that I ride on any given day.
So that's cool though. So you've got important boards from your legacy, and I'm wrapping my head around some of the names that I remember, but like the Raptor, right, was one of your twin fins with those crazy hatchet fins. Like what was the number one board? Like if we looked at your legacy, your lineage that you have stashed, what's the number one board? Like what's board number one look like?
Well, in regards of popularity, or in regards of my favorite?
No, like if you were to go, Scott, this is the history of Daniel's shaping, and here's number one. Like what is number one?
Well, I don't know. That's a tricky question. There's been a lot of standout boards that have been really unique and kind of breakthrough moments in that time frame, especially back 10 or so years ago. But I don't know. Probably the Vader would be the best, like completely out of the box, unique designs that felt like just incredible and like gave me senses of speed and performance that I'd never experienced before. It felt like a really like breakthrough, unique experience, out above all. Like there's a lot of boards that would kind of fit that category, but that board would probably, if I had to choose one to like hang my hat on, that would probably be it.
Yeah. Yeah, but isn't it true though that like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you sort of cut your teeth riding just kind of a traditional fish that you were making. So it seems to me that in your lineage, like as we're like, okay, this is the first 50 boards that Daniel ever made. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably one of those like fishes that you were riding back then,
Well, I guess that's true. And that evolution it was really fast back then, and you got to see a lot of that firsthand when that really rich development period, from like about 2005 to 2015, say.
Yeah.
And a lot of things, I was experimenting with a lot of really different boards to what was currently, out there in the mainstream or whatever.
Yep.
But from those really racy, narrow, gunny like fishes with like, under 18 inches wide and a lot of rocker, but like that, even still, there's nothing really in that kind of category that you can go back to. So I think what I've realized at this point in time is like there was a lot of concepts that I kind of unraveled back then, and even even now I haven't really explored them to their full potential. So it's kind of funny at this point in time in my career, I'm kind of looking backwards and going, I've done a lot of cool innovative things, but I think I don't want to get too far away from that and kind of go back and re-explore those concepts, and because they were so functional and unique and modern and all those cool things. So there's from a business sense, there's market equity in that, and also there's more to uncover from just a purely surfing experiential standpoint. So, yeah,
that's pretty exciting. It sounds like the best is yet to come, and you uncovered all this cool stuff, and you really, it happens, things are happening so fast that, and this is true of all surfboard design. Like, anyway, my point is things are happening so fast that you didn't really get to chew on some of the concepts quite enough. You kind of you took a bite and then you spat it out and you went to the next thing. And it'd be fun to go back and kind of chew on some of these concepts again. And I do think that that's the case with surfboard design in general. Like if you look at some of the boards that were made in 1977, single fins or whatever, I look at them, I go, those are cool outlines. I know they're slow as shit, but there's got to be something we can do with that. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, and that it's the same with surfboards in general. You can look back and, like, I get this a lot. Like, some of my most unique designs, it was like you'll get some guy like, oh, we did that in the 70s. And I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm like, I'm sure you did. And that's absolutely rad, because the concepts are very functional, and people often, through their own, journey in shaping and designing, will come across something very similar to that. But the difference is like we're saying, there's so much to an idea to develop it from concept through to a highly functional, innovative product or a range of designs that come from that type of idea of designing, whether it be a planing hull or a single fin or twin fin or whatever. There's so many ways you can tune a surfboard to go quite unique, regardless of its fundamental fins or whatever. So there's heaps of there's still heaps of room to mess around with those planing hull concepts, different ways you could make them smaller, or play with the volumes. There's just so much to do.
A million things, right? I mean, like,
a million things, and that's the great thing about surfboard design, right? There's always a new take on something. So,
and even like, let's say, just as an example, as a random thought, we took one of your boards from, let's just say, I don't know, 2009, and we just threw the bottom away, and we just decided to put 1.5 inches of concave in the bottom, like something like Maurice would do, or something like. I mean, now all of a sudden you've got a completely different surfboard. Like, you've completely changed the bottom design. Everything else, it looks like a Toma from 2009, but it's not. I mean, that's got to be fun that you get to play around like that.
100%, and that's, you kind of cottoned on to what I'm up to right now.
Oh, really?
We're going back to a lot of the original kind of shapes, and then playing with different hull designs. I'm really messing around with some really unique hull designs to get new feelings and unlock new lines that the board will draw. So I'm always searching for those really unique new feelings out of a board. So
yeah,
I'm definitely not afraid to go to extremes to find those new exciting feelings and easier ways to ride waves, and then naturally you kind of like take those extreme experiments and fine tune them, or turn the dial back to, instead of to 9, you turn it back to like 4.5, and then all of a sudden you got something really, really rad that you never would have got there unless you went to the 9 or the 10 extreme to kind of find out. So it's always fun just messing around with new things.
So it sounds like maybe you're putting some crazy concaves in your boards. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I'm definitely putting some crazy concaves in there, and yeah, even some different configurations too. It's like some V and all sorts of stuff too, and just kind of trying to unlock some new feelings out of that world. So,
what do you think about a board? So I'm riding a board right now. It's a 3-fin, and it is so dished out in the tail, all around the fins, all the way back to the tail block. It's super dished. It might have an inch of concave, single concave through the tail, not just like, it doesn't get flat at the tail. And I rode it for the first time today, and I'm like, wow, this thing, it's got so much lift, and it's very lively. Any thoughts on super dishy tails?
Yeah, like I've done obviously a lot of messing around with concaves, and they obviously work fantastic. They get the great thing about concaves is you get the lift, right? So you get the up and going, a lot of speed right off the mark, and they're real sensitive to the water. When you put the board on rail, they respond. So that's really cool. I've been playing a little bit with the V bottoms, which is a kind of design that had its purpose. It was really easy to turn, but it seemed to be quite a bit like a doughy kind of slow reaction kind of board. So I'm having a bit of fun combining the world of concave and V into one board where it's got a ton of V, but within the V you've got these multiple concave sets, like almost like a jet ski hull or a jet boat hull.
Right.
That the board will do both. It'll both create a ton of lift, and once the board goes onto rail, you're surfing off only a concave surface that's basically from the stringer line to the rail, which is a super narrow concave surface that all of a sudden gives you an incredible amount of speed and acceleration. So I've been messing with these kind of combinations of multi-concave V hulls, which have been super interesting. There's still a bit of work to kind of get them into a digestible package for the average person, but it's that's the fun thing about my job description, man. I got like an open license to get weird and wonderful with the bottoms and designs of a surfboard.
Well, and if you mind, I'd like to find out, does it look like, so at some point you get to go sort of in this really fun, crazy world of design and experiment and come up with some stuff, and then you go to the guys at Firewire and you're like, hey, here's what I'm thinking, the next iteration is going to be, and like, how does that relationship work? How much pushback do they give you? I imagine they're like, okay, you rip on that thing, but can Scott rip on that thing? Like, can the average fat guy pull it off? So tell me a little bit about that relationship, the designing the crazy cool stuff and then having to, market it or get it so that Firewire is fired up on.
Generally they're pretty good. If they trust my judgment, and I'm generally the harshest critic on my designs. So, and I do a lot of testing with friends and crew around here to make sure that everyone's kind of like really as excited as I am about these designs. But from a sense with Firewire, they're pretty cool. They'll let me basically, put forward 2 or 3 designs every year or whatever that I think are, the best what I've been working on the last 12 months or so. And then from there, they'll pick what they believe to be the most marketable board out of the 2 or the 3, for them. And if they pick one that I feel is secondary to the one I'm most excited about, we can, have a conversation and kind of a negotiation what we feel is going to be the best, and quite often they will go with what I feel, basically, for a lot of reasons, one of them being that if I'm most excited about a design, then I'm going to put the most energy into promoting it and marketing it and so forth. So we're generally pretty we work really well together in that sense, and they're really open to pushing whatever new thing I'm doing.
And is there a certain number that they expect from you? Like, are they like, Daniel's coming back to us in 6 months with 2 different designs, or is there like a number, like we want 4 and we'll pick 2 out of the 4? Or is it?
Well, there's a lot of moving factors there. They've obviously got a massive global business they're trying to manage, and there's only so much floor space in a surf shop that they can fit XYZ models from myself and Machado and everyone else in their stable. So it depending on their bigger picture plans and how well that something of mine is sitting on racks and selling or whatever.
Yeah.
Will determine whether a new model is necessary, right away or maybe next year or so forth. So we just kind of play it on a floating kind of schedule. Sometimes it's 2 new models in a year. Sometimes there won't be any new models in a year, and it'll be the following year. So
yeah.
And like this year, for example, I don't have any global releases in 2021, but we have something planned for 2022, obviously. So yeah.
It's interesting. I was thinking, you mentioned Rob's name, and Rob does a good job of marketing his boards by just going surfing every day. And you're like that too. I mean, you have this ability to, when I see you surf, I'm like, holy shit, I want to surf the way Daniel's surfing right now. Like this board looks amazing. How much does Firewire expect from you as far as like loading up onto Instagram, doing social media, showing up maybe at places you don't really want to surf, but going out and having a surf because it's good for business?
Yeah, well, it's cool. That's been naturally my career path since day dot. So that just, my surfing comes hand in hand with my designing, not only for R&D and prototyping, but to promote my own products and show, people how they work. And there's no better person than myself to go out there and show the board for what it does best. And it's no different with Rob, So I naturally do that and want to do that. And, so there's not really any pressure on their sense, but more of just a general mutual understanding that, I'll come up with, a handful of images or clips a year to promote the board. So, and also they got their team to kind of fall back on too. And so it's a collaborative effort, but yeah, there's never anyone breathing down my neck to do something.
Yeah. Do you think it's better for your brand to be in the USA, say 6 months out of the year, and be in this area and doing the loops that you do and surfing Oceanside and going up to Rincon and surfing at Wind and Sea and just being in California for 6 months? Do you notice an increase does Firewire notice an increase in sales when you're out in the North American public?
That's an interesting question, Scott. You could probably put your opinion on that just as much as anyone. And I think for sure it would. I've spent a lot of time in the States, and especially Southern California, and I love that area, and I do enjoy spending time there. So there's absolutely no doubt that spending more time there would help that market over there be hip to the newest things I'm doing and keep the momentum going. So for sure. I want to get back to spending more time over there when we can.
When can you get over here?
Well, you know what? I would love to come back this year and the end of the year. So that's my plan at this point in time. And the only problem with that is I've got a bit of an injury at the moment that I'm working on. So I got to just kind of figure out whether I need knee surgery or not in sometime in the next few months. So,
oh wow,
I've got some bad knees, or my back knees kind of hit the wall, and it turns out I've got some bone growth and stuff in there that's not supposed to be there. So, I'm just in the early stages of diagnosing the issue and figuring out a schedule if and when I need surgery, and if that will affect my plans for this year. So. We'll just see how that plays out. But at this stage, I'd love to come back in September. I think there's a show on,
the show, September 25th and 26th. Yeah, we'd love to see you. I hope you can get out here.
Yeah, well, that'll be definitely on the top of my plans. Hopefully, it doesn't interfere with my rehab, but yeah, that'll be penciling that one in.
And you've got a crew of good doctors surrounding you, and you've got all the best for your knee there, or are you thinking about coming out here and seeing somebody here? Dr. Kramer comes to mind, Warren Kramer. I'm sure you know Warren. He does a lot of work on pro surfers.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because a part of my uncertainty is I'm not finding the doctors I'm needing right now, because it's kind of, like, again, we live in a rural area where we don't have access to the gun guys, you know. So I'm in the process of trying to get access to our best specialists and surgeons here, and for a variety of reasons, they kind of put you on the back burner. Like, you don't even get to get a consultation for like 6 weeks, and then from there you're not sure whether they're trying to like guide you into their like expertise, and it may not be best for your ultimate rehabilitation. So I'm just in this challenging zone where I'm even considering potentially coming over that way to get some of the hero guys to handle it. So who knows? I might end up coming over for a variety of reasons.
Right. And are you familiar with Dr. Kramer?
Not so much. I've heard of him, and
Yeah.
I actually follow Taylor Knox on Instagram, and he just had some knee surgery, and it sounded very, very similar to what I'm suffering from. So I might be checking in with Taylor soon to get his advice, and potentially,
Yeah. I think Taylor will put you onto the right people for sure.
Yeah.
How many custom boards are you doing a month?
You know what? As like all customs, they come in. You know, sometimes it's hectic and sometimes it's not so hectic. But you know, it's actually not. It's not super crazy right now. Like I said, the time frame and the shipping thing has kind of slowed things a little. You know, but I generally like to just go in there and do a couple of boards a day. You know, and you know, a dozen a week or something, and that's kind of my perfect little flow. And I kind of just enjoy managing my business small scale to suit my lifestyle and still give me the time I need to surf and develop new stuff for Firewire. So
yeah,
I'm not out there trying to like blow minds with you know, numbers. I like to do the high price point, high quality epoxies, and cater to the fans of my designs who want to get the hand shaped final best of the best Tomo design. So
yeah,
we've got it's a nice little flow doing that over here, and I'm pretty stoked how that's going.
Yeah, good. And what about you know, you mentioned the sort of state of the art, best of the best, and I started thinking about some of the stuff that Justin Turnus is doing with Dark Arts, which are these carbon vacuum bagged layups. I'm sure you've seen it on Instagram and around. Any thoughts on other materials for your boards, or any thoughts on these carbon boards?
Yeah, I know Justin. I remember him doing his carbon boards when I was over there a few years ago, living there. Exactly. I love what he's doing. I love carbon, and if you recall, I was doing quite a few carbon boards in my early career too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love doing the carbon boards. So I'm a huge proponent for that technology, and I'd love to do more of that in the future when the timing's right and the right plan is in place. I would love to expand my my offerings, potentially in my customs, doing carbons again, whether I take that upon myself with the skills I've learned in the past to build them, or work with other guys. I'm not sure how that would look like, but I'm all about improving the tech and the lightweight and stronger boards, and I love that stuff.
What do you think is the perfect weight for a surfboard? I mean, not a big wave board, but just your average go-to daily driver. Is there a board that's too light?
It's difficult to say. That's like one of those. It all depends on the waves you're riding, the surfer you are, and what you're used to. I don't think there's a perfect weight. it depends, like if there might be a perfect weight for a nice day with no wind, and then if it's howling offshore, that same board will be too light,
Yeah.
And it's I think the most important thing is the flex is the key factor of a tech, whether it's too flexy, too stiff, or the flex matches the characteristics of the design. So I guess it comes to a bit of personal choice or preference, but yeah,
Sure.
I'm all about the flex.
Flex. All right.
Flex is key.
I love it. You offered something on Instagram, your last post, about the concept of the perfect nose design for a high performance surfboard. You basically threw it out to the public. Like, what do you guys think? And I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the past, I've really focused in on different parts of a surfboard design. Like, in the early career, I was really experimenting with tails, and did a lot of the different tail designs, and then templates and obviously a lot into noses. And once I started experimenting with different noses, I found a lot more freedom in my surfing, getting rid of the sharp point. And a lot of that is subconsciously, not having something that can hurt you on your surfboard, So I've always been looking for the perfect nose design, and obviously I've got a variety of templates I do, from a real rectangular board that wouldn't obviously need a nose. They're more of a chop off. But when it comes to a normal shortboard design, I really strongly am opposed to having something sharp that can cut you on the tip of your nose. It just really shouldn't be there. And I always keep asking this question of my followers or anyone who wants to pay attention, that does that sharp point need to be there? And clearly I don't think it is. So I've been playing with some noses that aesthetically, from a visual point of view of someone watching you surf, they look like a standard pointed nose, and potentially from a judge's point of view, and for contestants to adopt a safer nose that helps them improve their performance limits in a contest. It's good to just get rid of that little sharp point. So I have a little, like a false point, I call it. It's halfway between a round nose and a pointed nose. It comes to a nice little radius at the top, but the area really reduces in the tip, and it's kind of like a nice little unique looking nose that I'm going to start trying to promote with my shortboard designs. And
is it the case that you draw like for lack of a better phrase, a contemporary pointed nose, and then you literally take off 4 inches like that, and now you've obviously got a wider nose where the nose ends because you've taken off 4 inches of pointiness? I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I'm riding a pointy nose board now, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, God, if I just took off 4 inches, now the nose is wider sooner, the wide point's up now. Like, there's a lot going on there. Do I need to add a little kick flip to the nose so that that part, because it did have a little,
it's all this little thing of subtle factors, and it even goes down to just the simplicity of shape, is just intersecting 2 curves into a point. That's the easiest way to draw a template and to make it look attractive. If you're any given shape, you just intersect those points, it comes to a point. It's easy, it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that much critical design expertise to do that. But to make a rounded nose look attractive, because let's face it, we like to look at attractive boards. It's we're connoisseurs of surfboards. It should look beautiful, and it's much more difficult to make a curved nose look beautiful. So there's an art in that people may shy away from at times, and it's just easier to push this narrative that this pointed nose is the sexiest looking design. So there's that angle you could potentially argue, and then does an average surfer, say these new people to the sport, or guys who aren't super talented, you got your average Joes, they might be a little insecure in their surfing ability, So do those guys feel a bit more like powerful and tough to be walking down the beach with a nice sharp nose on their board. They're not going to get judged for their unique equipment,
Right.
because they might not have the knowledge to explain why they're riding a snub nose or whatever, and they might not just want to have to explain that to people in a parking lot because they don't know what they're talking about. So there's these different reasons why this sharp nose persists in our sport, and it's none of these reasons are because it works better. At least I don't believe so.
What about at a place like Pipeline? Will we ever see and by the way, snub nose, you and I both hate that phrase. I think I'm already trying to come up with a better marketing phrase, like something that has the word point in it, but it's not a pointed nose surfboard.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I'm with you. There's this kind of cliche names for certain designs. But
what are the names you're putting on?
I got torpedo nose,
right.
like it's shaped like a torpedo of a submarine or something, like it's fluid dynamically engineered to displace water in a clean fashion. And I've got the false point, which is kind of like a point but without the sharp tip, and what else, like the chop nose is obviously the diamond nose of the Faders and Vanguards. There's a few.
I'm gonna wrap my head around it for a while over a cup of coffee tomorrow and try to come up with something that may or may not work. Who knows?
Yeah.
but I was getting to, what about at Pipe? Like, are we ever going to see a dolphin nose surfboard? Are we ever going to see Pipeline littered with dolphin nose surfboards? Like, that's the majority nose design.
Well, I don't see why not. It would just take the adoption or someone to really, to prove why that nose is the way it is. When it comes to like big waves, like, let's get something straight. The traditional template of what guys ride, there's nothing really wrong with that. They work fantastic. John Florence has taken off later and deeper, and like the guys are doing amazing stuff, and the boards are working. Yeah. I'm really just focusing in on that couple of inches at the tip of those boards and why that needs to be there. And can you make a new little aesthetic to those boards without changing the whole fundamentals of those designs, to make them a little safer, and I believe it would make them look far more modern and 21st century. And if the right guys adopted them, they would really catch on, and then everyone would be like, duh, why are we even doing this? And it would just kind of disappear pretty quickly, this needle nose point, so I think there's no reason why we need to latch onto this tiny little bit of foam fiberglass at the tip for these bunch of weird subconscious attachments we have with a sense of power and ego.
I think you nailed it. There's some insecurity behind that pointy nose.
Possibly.
I was watching the El Tomo fish with Koa Smith on his unboxed thing on the WSL's website, which is really cool. And he says something really interesting. He says, basically, it's a good 4-fin when it feels positive like a 3-fin, but it provides that extra bit of spark. Something like that. I might have butchered it a little bit. Your thoughts on that? The idea that a 4-fin should feel like a 3-fin.
It should tick all the boxes of what you're looking for in a performance surfboard. You should have the control. That's what 3-fin really gives you, is a control. It's exceptional at going exactly where you want it to go on a wave. But obviously the downside is that you've got a little bit more drag, and you got to put more input into the board, put more energy into the board to make it work. Hence the name thruster. You got to thrust that board around to get it to go. But the beauty of a quad, much like a twin, is it's got a lot more natural speed and flow. So you don't really have to generate the speed. The board will have the speed, and it's more about directing it. So I guess the goal of a good quad fin should have the control that you want, and the board will go exactly where you want it to go, and has that thruster predictability is probably what Ko was getting at. And that's the part of that development process. You spend a lot of time in just fine tuning everything, fin placements, fin designs and to get them to really hold and do exactly what you want the board to do.
Are you only riding quads and twins, or do you have, I know I'm sure you probably have some 3 fins. I mean, you got so many boards, but what's your go-to board look like fin wise?
I ride a lot of quads these days, which is weird because 10 years ago I wasn't into quads. I was kind of anti-quad, and then eventually I got the right combo and I just kind of really gelled with them because I just like to flow my turns together. That's how I like to surf. I like to link and keep the speed throughout the wave. So yeah, I gravitated towards the quads, and part of that's too just getting older and your body starts to break down, and like my knees, for example, aren't the strongest, and the quad just puts a lot less torque on the joints and the back and all that stuff. So it's a bit of a longevity thing too, just gravitating towards designs that put less wear and tear on the body.
Yeah, relax fit jeans, right? What about, all of our fins are static. All of our fins are placed in the board and they're static. The tips might bend a little bit, but the bases are static. What about the idea that the base, when you do a turn, the base is dynamic? It moves a little bit. The base of the fin moves a little bit. I know you well enough to know that you think through all sorts of crazy shit like this. Any thoughts on, part of me is like, look, a static fin's killer because everything's neutral and I can design a board around it. So that's like another variable I don't need right now. I don't know.
Well, there's also, every idea is worth experimenting with, and whether it has merit or not is a different thing. I've seen guys who have approached me with similar ideas like that, and I think with my first thought with a moving base would be is the energy you're generating into the fin when you put a board on rail. If the fin was to move at the base, your control of where you want to go on with your board. So if you want to point your board to the lip in a certain spot, if your fin kind of pivots in its angle, I think you'd find the board would want to weird out and do some weird ghosting maneuvers on you. But that's not to say that concept couldn't be perfected in a certain way, to make that idea relevant, so it's a tricky one. It all comes down to refinement of an idea and whether you can, if it actually is functional or it's more of a fantasy kind of style of idea.
Yeah, I'm actually riding a board right now that has this fin system in it, and it's fascinating. There's something there. I'm not sure what it is, and part of me isn't sure if it's the board with all that dish in the tail that I was telling you about, or if it's the fins loading and unloading.
Yeah.
Of course, a fin, a pelagic creature has these fins that move, these fish, and so
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's, like I said, there's no absolutely. Don't take my word as gospel. Like I'm just going through my design process mind. There might be something amazing to be achieved in that idea. And like you said, it might require a radical concave to make it work, to give you that grip where the rail engages the water, so you don't need the fin to be so solid. So it's all about developing the idea and having the board complement the fin and so forth.
Yeah. And speaking of kind of crazy fins, you made me a board, I don't know, a long time ago, and it was a twin fin, and it had those really cool hatchet fins. I don't even know the name of them. You remember which fins? Are you are you employing those in any of your crazy designs, or are you moved away from that for the time being?
No. In fact, I do a similar fin with Futures right now that we released last year, a quad fin hatchet with, it's like an evolution of that hatchet fin idea, where instead of a one bulbous kind of hockey stick tip, it's got a double kind of flipper effect fin. So it's like a double tipped hatchet where the fin kind of like hooks in twice and then goes into the cutout at the bottom. So that the reason I experiment with that is that I wanted to get a little bit less surface area in the tip of the fin, so the fin wouldn't skip out with that when it's getting too much load through the tip. By reducing that surface area in the tip and giving it 2 tips, it actually gave it more of a clawing effect where it really gripped the water.
Oh.
And you could actually put more energy through the fin and get more thrust and drive out of the fin than a traditional hatchet. So those have been super fun. They're really drivey, really controlled. Talking about making a quad fin feel like a 3 fin, that takes that concept, you know,
Oh, cool.
even further. So yeah, those have been really fun, and yeah, those been stoked on that fin design.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give that a look. Well, what else, Daniel? What am I missing here? What else is going on in your life? Everything's good. Your knees screwed up. We gotta get your
I'm in a good place. I've just, you know, I've relocated to Australia full time. I've just built a really nice house at my home break. Just moved in last year, and yeah, I've just been enjoying making a home. You know,
Cool.
just getting set up, kind of getting all my little tinkering zones in place, my shaping rooms at home. Got a new little dog that's keeping me company.
Oh, cool.
Got
Good.
a nice girlfriend, and yeah, life's good, man. I've been really kind of kicking back. Well, not kicking back, but just enjoyed kind of making it to a certain level in life, and really happy how things are gone. I just had my 40th birthday a month or so ago, so I'm in the 45, and yeah, life's good, man. I'm just kind of using this whole global reset as my own personal little reset to reevaluate what I want to do and stuff. And yeah, it's the time off from traveling's been great.
Yeah, good. Well, look, it's been good to see you. I will. I'm hoping that you'll be able to get out here in September for the Boardroom show. Selfishly, but you got to do what you got to do to get your knee right.
Yeah, man. Well, hopefully the two goals intersect there, and I'll be out there regardless.
Cool, Daniel. Thanks so much for being on the show, buddy, and it's good to catch up with you. I hope to see you soon.
Cheers, Scott. It's been great catching up, mate.
Yeah, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Peace.